Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
How you like that, boy?
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
You idiot. Big, massive dumps.
Around the nation. Welcome. Welcome to the show. All right. So, Waldorf Nation, welcome. Welcome. It's Monday. All right. You can already tell. It's a Monday today. And so, well, you know, we got a good show for you regardless. We got fun stuff and not so fun stuff. Of course, we have fraud. We've got the fraud. We found fraud. Insurance fraud, but nonetheless, we got the fraud. We also have Let's Go Brandon. What is that all about? And why is there a pilot in trouble? Possibly. We also have, of course, more right-wingers saying insane things, including, of course, some jokes about bombing the Capitol, or at least the Capitol building. Interesting. And then Josh Hawley thinks it's the left that is making men want to play video games and watch porn. Okay, interesting stuff. Fascinating. We'll get into that, which, by the way, video games and porn sounds like a fun time. All right, anyway. So let's do it. Let's jump in here, but before we do, I gotta ask you something. Please like and share the stream. Help us out. Much appreciations to those who do like us on the different various platforms that we're on, and more importantly, as I said, share out the video, the stream. All right. Also, super chats, all that wonderful stuff. That's a good way to get read on the show, even though sometimes I will read other non-super chat comments. All right, so let's do it. Let's jump into the fraud. Get fraud, lots and lots of fraud. Best fraud, greatest fraud. While former President Donald Trump is traveling around the country and accusing the left of voter fraud, the Trump Organization is being accused of a different sort of fraud. Now, according to a report from Rolling Stone, a former employee of one of Trump's golf courses claims that the organization has actually been ripping off their insurance company with wildly overinflated damage claims, which again is essentially insurance fraud. Now, the accusations first stem from a flooding incident at the former president's Briarcliff golf course back in 2011. So now the Trump Organization received about $1.3 million in payouts from their insurance company to repair damage from a flood. So now they apparently asked for all that money, but spent a very, very small amount of it on fixing the actual damage. So this is according to the article. When a deluge flooded the Trump Organization's Westchester County golf course in a nearby town in 2011, the organization used a wildly inflated claim to score an insurance payout of nearly $1.3 million, pulling in far more than what it spent to repair the course, adding that the previously unreported insurance claim at Trump National Golf Club in the village of Briarcliff Manor far outstripped the cost to repair the damages, which were estimated to be around $130,000 to $150,000, one of the sources says. So wait, they spent at most $150,000 to repair the golf course, but received a total of $1.3 million in insurance payouts. Boy, that seems kind of wrong, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a little lopsided, right? Why would you get $1.3 million if all you needed was $150,000? That's how insurance is supposed to work, right? Well, apparently, that's not how it works for the Trump Organization. Now, before you think, okay, dude, whatever, nobody cares, right? Why are we talking about this? Well, understand that if you have property insurance, for example, this is why your premiums are higher. Not only that, but again, this is literally a crime. It's insurance fraud. If you and I, for example, did something like this, well, for example, flood damage to your house, you have flood insurance, and you say, oh, no, yeah, that flooding, instead of being like, I don't know, $10,000 for damages, you're like, it was $100,000 worth of damages. Hey up, gimme. Well, I mean, they're generally at first not going to believe you and not going to trust you. And secondly, if you actually do manage to pull off a fraud, you're going to be in prison. So far, and again, to be fair, it is in the investigation stages, but nobody's gone to prison. And I don't think anyone will go to prison as a result of this. But it gets worse. The former golf course employee also stated that the work itself, the $150,000 worth of work that they got $1.3 million for, was actually never even completed. They didn't really even fix all the damage. Basically, they band-aided it. Put a band-aid on it. That's it. Hey, fixed. Well, okay, but wait. Where'd all the money go? Well, went right into the pockets. Of course. Now, and according to the report, the Trump Organization had actually even tried to file a larger claim, but the insurer refused payment when they couldn't provide any sort of receipts. Their greed has absolutely no bounds. Isn't that absolutely amazing? But that's the nature of the Trumps. They just keep on reaching to grab as much as they can. As much as they can. For one, I guess it's kind of ballsy when you think about it, because they know, even though they know they're screwing the system, they're still like, no, give me more. I want more. Unstoppable. Okay. Now the report goes on. The Westchester County District Attorney's Office has opened a criminal investigation into the financial dealings at Trump's Briarcliff Club. The New York Times, which first reported the investigation, said it appears focused, at least on part, on whether the Trump Organization misled local officials about the value of the property to reduce its taxes. So that's just one of the many investigations that are going on right now, whether or not he had also done tax fraud. And now they also found evidence of potential insurance fraud. So fraud all around. There's so much fraud. Tremendous amount of fraud. Everybody tells me there's so much fraud going on. Well, the organization's also alleged insurance shenanigans at Briarcliff may help explain how the Trump Organization, year after year, took in actually more from insurance than it paid out in premiums. One of the sources said the company would routinely gather overinflated repair estimates, often from members of the club. that could be used to justify insurance claim. So understand that he would have members at his club that ran contracting companies, for example. And so they would get those people to overinflate costs. Like, oh, there's damage. Hey, Bob's a member of my club. Hey, guess what? I need some repair work done. Can you quote me something? No, that's too low. Can you quote me higher? Because you know that's really going to be very expensive to fix. Wink, wink. And then, of course, they get this overinflated cost, pass it on to the insurance company. The insurance company looks at the bills and says, well, you know, hey, it's the Trump organization. They must be legit. To which I say, if you believe anything that Donald Trump says, you're duped. You're dumb. You're seriously probably one of the dumbest people. Either that or you must be on the take. So, but you know, they do that. And then of course, they get the money and they barely do any repair to it at all. I guess just enough to barely get it working and functional and then pocket the rest of the money. What a scam. What an absolute scam. Now, in a conversation with top company officials, the source learned that the Trump organization calculated that it got more than $2 back from insurers for every dollar that it paid in, a return of over 100%. 100% return. Wow. Broadly, the source says the company viewed insurance not as an expense, you know, like us normal people would, but rather as an ongoing source of profit. Profit. Imagine being able to use your insurance company as a way to make money. I mean, that's what they're doing, right? All while telling you, by the way, that the real fraud is Democrats when it comes to the election and welfare fraud and things like that. You know, it's black people and poor people. They're doing all the fraud in this country. They're the ones stealing it from everybody. When really, you're supposed to be rich and you're stealing it from everyone else. But understand, that's exactly how they get rich. They get rich from stealing from everyone else. It's obvious Trump-style hypocrisy. So one more interesting detail. So now, again, the village of Briarcliff Manor is also suing the Trump organization. And so I think this is part of why we're finding out some of these details. Now, they say the flooding is due to some modifications that were made at the club that caused the water to damage neighbors' property. Oh, of course. Because of course it is. And so not only did they do alleged insurance fraud, you know, stealing from insurance companies, raising everyone's premiums on property insurance, but also literally causing floods for their neighbors, who then, again, they don't get anything back from. I should say they don't get anything additional back from insurance. And just imagine if they're underinsured. I don't know if necessarily that's the case in that area, because they're probably surrounded by a bunch of other rich people. But those rich people, they paid their premiums, and so you know that cost, by the way, as I said before, it gets spread around to everyone who pays in premiums. Also, that Donald Trump and his organization can use it as a source of income. The so-called rich person. Classic. The Trump organization, once again, showing that it's built on nothing but fraud and lies. Wow. Okay. The grift is real, indeed. Okay. Ew. Hold on there. My sister had one of her houses almost completely destroyed by a renter. The insurance company would only pay out a bit at a time as she provided receipts, not estimates of repair materials. Yeah, see? And that's the other thing. If you're insuring Donald Trump, you're an idiot. And you're getting played. And something that, you know, us normal people couldn't get away with. Okay. Excuse me. On Monday, Politico reported that Southwest Airlines has opened an investigation after reports that a pilot had said, "Let's go, Brandon," over the intercom during a flight from Houston to Albuquerque on Friday. So, okay, wait a minute here. Some of you might be thinking, Brandon? Who's Brandon? Now, for those of you who already know what that means, just kind of bear with me here because some of you might not know. "Let's go, Brandon" is an expression mostly used on the right, of course, for some on the left, that is code for "fuck Joe Biden." Okay, all right. Look, why not just say that? I mean, that's the question for me. So now, where it originates, of course, is from a NASCAR race, because of course, in October, where the crowd began to chant "fuck Joe Biden." Honestly, again, I actually don't have any issue with them chanting that, but nobody cares. Like, who cares if you do that? Whatever. I mean, it's chuds doing chud things at a NASCAR race, whatever. They got free speech. I have absolutely no problem with that. In fact, there are some issues, personally, with the Biden administration that makes me think, yeah, you know what? Fuck Joe Biden. And let me give you a couple of examples of why. So now, the fact that Joe Biden could today unilaterally cancel student debt for millions of Americans. He could do this as much as he wants. He can cancel all of it. He can cancel 50,000, 100,000. Doesn't matter. He has the power, as president of the United States, to cancel student loan debt. Now, he refuses to do it. Fuck Joe Biden, right? Or the fact that he's still using Trump-style, I should say Trump-era immigration policy to keep people out of the country. No, he's not like, the right wing's always like open borders. There's the illegals are coming in. They're pouring into the border. Joe Biden's letting them in. And he's like personally going down to the border and opening the giant gate and saying, "Come on in, guys. Come on in. There's a party in here." No, that's not what Joe Biden is doing. Joe Biden has been using a COVID pandemic response tool in order to kick out immigrants that are refugees. So understand that. That's what he's doing. So fuck Joe Biden. Okay? Total disappointment here, okay? And look, the less you talk about the reconciliation bill, which is absolutely disappointing, he's not even fighting for massive chunks of his own agenda. So yes, fuck Joe Biden. All right? Totally agree with that. So now the chant, of course, comes from that NASCAR race where the reporter was interviewing somebody named Brandon Brown. So now the reporter initially thought the phrase was being chanted was, "Let's go, Brandon." So that's where it came from, right? Now, immediately the right wing went into insane conspiracy theory mode and said, "Oh, the media is covering it up. The media is covering up our very clever chant." Shut up. Just shut up. Shut up and stop being dumb. Not everything's a goddamn conspiracy, okay? Like, right-wingers, all right? Just stop, please. Jesus Christ. All right, but again, I'm sure the reporter either couldn't hear or legitimately thought, because he was interviewing somebody named Brandon, that the crowd was like, oh, cheering him on, which would be nice because I'd love to see that kind of positivity from, the right wing, but apparently that doesn't exist. All right, sure. If only, right? So understand that's where this came from, okay? Now, personally, I think this is super lame, not really all that clever. If you just want to say the word fuck, please do so. Just say it. Just say it. I mean, this is for people who, like, for example, this is like something Ben Shapiro would do, or Tim Pool, right? Since they can't, like, they're convinced that if they swear, baby Jesus will cry. So they go, oh, no, we can't say that word. Let's just say, "Let's go, Brandon." Oh, really? Okay, yeah. You're not smart, though. You're not very clever. Again, this is super, super lame. That said, the airline was not impressed over this, okay? In fact, Southwest said in a statement that would address the situation directly with any employee involved, while continuing to remind all employees that public expression of personal opinions while on duty is unacceptable. Southwest does not condone employees sharing their personal political opinions while on the job serving our customers, and one employee's individual perspective should not be interpreted as a viewpoint of Southwest and its collective 54,000 employees. So, of course, there's the corporate backpedal, which says, no, we don't agree at all. Now, interestingly enough, let me just go back. During the pandemic, the airline industry has received millions and millions of dollars from the government. So it's just kind of interesting, right? Just to kind of like point that out. And I'm not sure, but they also might have received millions more in grants and loans and things during the Biden administration, but I'll have to double check on that. But okay, whatever. Now, according to the original report, the pilot's announcement drew audible gasps from the passengers. Oh no. Oh no. He said, let's go, Brandon. Look, everybody calm down, okay? So the guy doesn't like Joe Biden. That's fine. I actually don't really care. And honestly, look, here's the other thing, right? If the guy was like, if the pilot was instead like, fuck Bernie, okay, dude, that's like your opinion, man. I disagree with it, but I don't actually think that's a big deal. Okay? I don't think this pilot should actually lose his job. I know that's strange, right? But it's like, I don't care. I don't actually care. It's not that big of a deal. Honestly, I would rather him be vaccinated if he's not. That's more important here. If he's not vaccinated, then I think that is a good reason to ground him, so to speak, and not allow him to fly. Because I think it is way more important to be vaccinated. And if he is, but says this anyway, I don't really care. I just don't care. Say it, whatever, however much you want. It doesn't matter. But that said, I'm not making decisions here, obviously. Southwest is a private corporation. So Southwest has the ability to ground people, to fire people. That is the nature of capitalism. That's the nature of a private business. It is what it is. So do that, okay? But I can guarantee you, though, and this is what's going to happen. I'm going to almost guarantee it. If he faces punishment, if the guy actually does get fired or suspended or whatever, you're going to have what I'm calling the grievance industrial complex of the conservative, of the right wing. They will make this entire case about how it's the left doing cancel culture against free speech. How could you destroy his free speech? Cancel culture, they just canceled this pilot. He no longer has a job because of the left. Really? Really? This is a private company. Private company. Come on, dude. I don't really care. So, again, I don't know, like, I don't know if maybe that's what this guy's going for, because think about it this way, right? Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Steven Crowder, Charlie Kirk, they're all probably going to come out soon and call this as a leftist attack against free speech. I see this happening. I see this happening all the time. And so understand that this is something that, again, is the grievance industrial complex. They have turned this into a cottage industry of making conservatives into victims. And so hear me now, quote me later. Okay. Censorship is big at ATN. Your mod censor me. That's like YouTube's auto algorithm. Like, and I have to go through and and show every comment, and I ain't got time for that shit. So, if what I say doesn't fit their thing, don't talk about free speech when you can't even have it in your comment. Literally, it's an automated system. It's auto mod. Holy crap. Talk about not understanding how the situation actually works. Jesus. It gets frustrating, honestly. Like, you think I got time to go and unhide every single freaking comment? Again, here I am going and unblocking a whole bunch of different comments here. You think I want to sit here and do that for the whole fucking show? Are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck? I have a show to actually do. Come on. Like, it's the stupidest thing. Frustrating. Didn't I say thanks to the mods? Yeah, human mods. Not auto, like, YouTube driven, like, automated shit. Come on. Would be easier to, I don't know, stop writing stuff that trips up the auto mod. You would think, but like the auto mod is also like super, super imperfect and messes up a lot, and I really don't know how to turn it off. All right. Anyway, let's go and move on. Because, you know, you have a show to do here. Elected Republicans are openly talking about blowing things up they don't like. So on Saturday, Representative Matt Gaetz was doing a stump speech for another congressional hopeful, and he had joked about getting rid of the metal detectors in the Capitol building, and here's what he said.
My friend Lauren Boebert from Colorado, they put in metal detectors on the floor of the House because as like a 5'0" woman, she carries a firearm for her personal protection. So, they got triggered by that. I said, man, is it tanninite or C4 we want to put in those metal detectors and we blow them up and we take them to charity?
Yeah.
That's actually tannerite, not tanninite, but okay, sure. Yes, I know, let's blow up the metal detectors because it's so funny. Haha, people are triggered by Lauren Boebert. No, actually not. That's not the situation. So, look, the reason the Capitol building actually has metal detectors in it now is because of January 6th. 5 people died as a result. Numerous people were injured. Unhinged right-wingers stomped through the Capitol, breaking into the building, smashing windows, smearing feces, chanting, "Hey, Mike Pence." But to the right, of course, it's no big deal, and to some sections of the left, no, it wasn't an actual problem, not a real issue. J-6, no, it was just a bunch of quote-unquote peaceful protesters. That's what it was. And they weren't shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." No, they were saying, "Hang my pants," because it was laundry day. Yes, that's what it was. Oh, of course. But again, this is how they view January 6th as a gigantic nothing, when in actuality, it was a serious thing. Politicians understandably got incredibly scared for their safety, especially right-wing politicians, which, by the way, they ironically came out later and said, "I can't believe people like AOC were so scared." What happened? And that other politicians, "I can't believe the Democrats were so scared." When, like, Lindsey Graham was literally like, "Why don't you shoot them?" I'll get to that report in another segment, but now there are metal detectors. Okay, all right. So now there's more, okay? Now, multiple Republican congressional lawmakers also complained about the metal detectors, saying that they are a violation of our constitutional rights. So they were essentially siding with Boebert, saying, we don't need them. Let's get rid of them. And then, of course, Gaetz is like, "I'll blow them up. Let's blow them up. Okay, but here's the thing. Why do you need a gun in the Capitol building? I mean, are you going to shoot somebody over policy? Or are you planning for something else to happen? Kind of fucking weird, dude. Especially when, in reality, if anybody needs protection against someone, it's against the unhinged far right. Even then, like, I'm still like, well, let's not have that. let's not go in that direction, because like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna have like people showing up to, to the Senate hearings with like long guns strapped to their back? You might as well bring an RPG or rocket launcher. You know what I mean? Just do something like, all right, hey, here's Rand Paul with the chain gun. I mean, what are we doing? What's going on here? No, let's not do that, right? That's super, super weird, and you don't need to do that, okay? Especially when there are people at the Capitol that are police officers that are armed. But anyway, so now, speaking of unhinged, we have Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert also tweeted her support of blowing up the metal detectors. She said this: "I'll bring the tannerite." Right. So, all right. Now, he said C4, right? C4 or tannerite. C4 is a powerful plastic explosive. Tannerite is a powerful reactive explosive that has, and we've seen in videos, unintentionally started forest fires, have hurt or even killed people, right? And so it's not something to really mess around with. But that's okay, though. Oh, no, we were just joking, right? We were just joking. Sort of. A little, kind of joking. Kidding around, horsing around, But no, Gates, following this, tweeted out an article saying, "If you can't fantasize about blowing up useless metal detectors with Boebert at a Florida Halloween political rally for Sabatini, when can you?" Well, nobody said that you couldn't, to be fair. But free speech isn't free from consequences, buddy. And in this case, the consequences are people making fun of you. And also being a little freaked out that you're saying, like, we should blow things up in the Capitol, especially considering January 6th, how it's fresh on people's minds. But okay, all right. And by the way, it also really says, I'm sorry. Let me go for another tweet here from Boebert first. They said, "Telling the fools who think that this could be done inside the Capitol to get a life," and said the metal detectors were useless, so we are getting rid of them when Republicans take back the House. This is what Boebert tweeted, essentially. Oh, great. Let's get rid of the metal detectors so that when the next group of Capitol rioters break in, they'll all be able to be armed. They'll have guns. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Fantastic. But remember, Boebert kept trying to help the rioters reach Nancy Pelosi. I'm no fan of Pelosi. But I can't imagine the things that the mob would have tried to do to her had they reached her. I mean, that's horrible. I don't wish that on any human beings. I mean, this is way different than interrupting a dinner or meeting in order to criticize her. I'm totally on board with any of that. Criticizing politicians, that's kind of what our democracy is about. Being able to criticize our politicians, have meetings with them in order to redress our grievances. That's literally a part of, what our country is supposed to be founded on, having a representative government. Now, unfortunately, we're kind of far away from that, but I digress, all right? That said, to these people, understand that people like Boebert and Gates want a violent, unstable mob. That's what they're in favor of. They're okay with that because it's their mob, their people, their voters. And so if another January 6th happens, and I'm not saying it won't, but if it does, it won't be them that gets hurt the next time. So, all right. Got another J-6 story here. Might be hold on. Be a good time for liberals to get their heads out of their asses and carry guns. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, okay. On the other hand, it's like, then we're just going to end up all shooting each other and they're going to get the civil war that they want. You know what I'm saying? Oy. So, I mean, that's kind of the problem. And maybe that's a little too slippery slope. But I don't know. Everybody armed, I mean, that's going to end up being a bad idea at the end of the day, I think. Just not good. Okay. Anyway, let's go to Lindsey Graham. In a piece by the Washington Post that documents January 6th from the perspective of what actually happened inside the Capitol building, Senator Lindsey Graham was apparently far more worried about the mob than he has let on. In the Post's second chapter, titled Bloodshed, the report goes in depth about how Vice President Mike Pence and members of Congress were evacuated or sheltered in place after rioters breached the Capitol. One anecdote described Graham's reaction to fleeing the Senate chamber, including him urging the Senate Sergeant at Arms to shoot the mob. So here's a quote in context here. He had yelled at the Senate Sergeant at Arms, "What are you doing? Take back the Senate. You've got guns. Use them." He was adamant, the article describes him as, and says, "We give you guns for a reason. Use them." Well, of course they did. They used them against Ashley Babbitt. So no, I don't necessarily disagree with them using that, even though I actually do wish that nobody had lost their lives. 5 people had died. And understand, too, that it's really their fault. If they hadn't literally broken into the Capitol to do an insurrection, nobody would have died. Nobody would have lost their lives. Had they stayed outside and peacefully protested, it would have been fine. Nobody has an issue with peaceful protest, especially when it comes to right-wing protest. Everybody, like, the government loves right-wing protest that's peaceful. Government hates left-wing protest that's peaceful. And let's be honest about that. Protest against a pipeline, and you're going to get everything thrown at you. But protest against mask mandates, well, then, you're fine. You can go around, you can carry guns, you can do whatever you want. We're gonna handle you with kids' gloves. So understand that, like, not all protest is being treated equally by the government. And so that is interesting. An interesting dichotomy to kind of point out. But, like, okay, so they break into the building and they start doing violence, they start doing property destruction. So understand, what did you think was going to happen? Do you think they were just going to completely let that go? Well, some of them wanted to completely let it go, but others didn't. I'm actually kind of surprised there wasn't more violence towards the mob. Again, it's not that I wanted them to open fire, but, like, if it were a mob of black people and leftists, I can guarantee the Capitol Police wouldn't have wasted a second, many of them, before blasting. So let's understand that that's the situation there, okay? So now Graham, as I said, was pretty bloodthirsty and had continued by saying, "I just can't believe that we could lose the Capitol like that," Mr. Graham said during a break in the impeachment trial of former President Trump. "I got mad. These police officers had every right to use deadly force. They should have used it. But the people in charge of securing the Capitol left the country." He also said, "The mainstream thing that struck me is what kind of rules of engagement do we have to defend the Capitol? I can't believe that an unarmed mob could do that." Okay. Well, understand that this is what happens when you first have a mob of people that you egg on. Secondly, it's also what happens when you have white right-wing privilege. So understand that they wouldn't have, like, again, if it were lefties, if it were black people, if it were a mob of Antifa that were outside protesting and then started breaking in, I have no doubts that they would have been all gunned down. But, like, white right-wing privilege, the cops would, like, let them in, because a lot of the cops were documented to be on the side and sympathetic, or at least sympathetic, to the protesters, to the rioters, I should say. So, again, things are not even here, okay? And there was a lot of white right-wing privilege at play, and you can even see it now with the super, super lenient, nice, light sentencing that a lot of them have gotten so far. But understand that this lie that brought them there in the first place was spread by so many different people in power, including, again, the former president of the United States, who didn't want a peaceful transfer of power, didn't want to transfer of power at all. And so spread this lie, amplified by the rest of the party, including people like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham also talked about massive voter fraud, which didn't exist. And so the entire thing was egged on by a side that refuses to concede that they actually lost an election. And again, this is largely the fault of Trump, his allies, the right-wing media, pushing phony voter fraud narratives. There is no mass voter fraud. The actual amount of voter fraud is less than 0.0004%. Statistically insignificant. And mostly, as we found out, perpetrated by right-wingers, by people who voted for Donald Trump, not once but twice. But understand that they pushed it because Trump wants to be an authoritarian. In fact, the same piece went on to note that during all the stuff that was happening, at 1:19 p.m., the president returned to the safety of the White House and sat in his private dining room off the Oval Office to watch cable news. Now, that's generally not surprising. That's what he does, or what he had done most of his time, is sitting there and watching cable news, eating some hamburgers, drinking some Diet Cola. But this time he was watching the riot unfold and was cheering it on. Not only that, but he was railing to those around him about how disloyal Mike Pence was to oversee certification of the Electoral College results. He knows absolutely nothing. Mike Pence, even if he wanted to, and I'm sure he wanted to, he did not have the authority to not certify the election. And this is an interesting question. If you think Mike Pence had the authority to, basically change and not certify the election and allow Trump to stay in office, why wouldn't Kamala Harris have the ability to do so? Do you think Kamala Harris has that power? Do you think any vice president in history had the power to not certify an election? Seriously? Seriously. Come on. Come on. Now, Trump, of course, refused to tell the mob to stand down, a lot. Eventually, he was worn down to the point where he did a video of where he was like, "Oh, I love you. You're very special. But you got to go home now. Go home in peace. But I love you so much. You're so great." He loved what was going on. Okay? And so, again, that took 3 tries to get, because he kept going on and saying how awesome they were. And so understand, come on. He didn't want them to stop. And by the way, before that, Graham had called Ivanka Trump repeatedly with suggestions for what they should say. In fact, here's what he told Ivanka, quote, "You need to get these people out of there. This thing is going south. This is not good. You're going to have to tell these people to stand down. Stand down." And of course they didn't. So one more note here, and that is the racism of the crowd, right? So there was one black Capitol Police officer on duty that I know of, and this was Harry Dunn. And so Harry Dunn ordered the rioters to leave the Capitol. So now some had responded by saying, "President Trump invited us here." Well, he couldn't do that because literally not the president anymore. Then they say that nobody voted for Joe Biden. Really? Because a lot of people did. And most of that, of course, was to get rid of Donald Trump. Understand that this election was not for Joe Biden. It was a referendum against Donald Trump. People were tired of Donald Trump's mishandling of COVID, and so they chose someone else. And it's kind of sad, really, because here's the thing. So back in 2016, you had an election that was, Donald Trump versus the establishment. Now, in the Democratic primary, you had Bernie Sanders, who actually did incredibly well against Hillary Clinton. Couldn't get over that last bit against Hillary Clinton to win the nomination because of various different factors, including, of course, the party being massively, massively stacked against Bernie Sanders. And I mean the party apparatus, like the DNC. Now, in this election, Bernie Sanders actually did worse. Why? Well, it's not because his message was worse. It's not because his campaign was worse. It was because people were so tired of Donald Trump that they're like, I don't know. Mainstream media is telling me that the only way to get rid of Donald Trump is to do Joe Biden. So I guess we're going to do that. And that's what happened. And so, that's that situation. But anyway, getting back to what Harry Dunn was saying and his exchange with the rioters, he said, quote, I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count? Am I nobody? I think that's a good question. Significant question, right? Saying like, hey, I voted for him. Does that mean my vote doesn't count? Because, yes, millions of people voted for Joe Biden. Get rid of Donald Trump. And does our vote not count? Because understand, these people only think about themselves, right? My country, my thing, I should win because I feel entitled to this country. I feel entitled to have my guy win. Well, but what about everyone else? They never talk about how, like, the right wing literally wants to take the votes of tens of millions of people away because they don't believe that those votes were legitimate at all, even though there's actually no evidence of voter fraud. So they want to take those millions of votes away, and they want to cancel them, they want to nullify them, and they want to install essentially what's a dictator. Okay, well, now, the response by the rioters was to say this. You hear that, guys? One woman said, this N-word voted for Joe Biden. And about 20 people screamed at him saying, boo, effing N-word. And that's who these people are. Okay, these people that call themselves, American patriots, right? We're the American patriots. We're real America. Those people, those effing N-words, those are the ones that voted for Joe Biden. They're not real Americans. They don't care about the election. They don't care about election security. No. You don't care about the election. You don't care about reality. You're literally out there trying to overthrow an election because of your feelings. Your feelings. This is who they are. And this is who, understand, Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert defend, because that's who they are. Now, for Lindsey Graham, for 2 seconds, actually did denounce Trump and that group of people. And so, there's a little bit of time where he's like, oh, I completely denounce. I think this is terrible. I think we should move on from Donald Trump. And then goes back to doing what Lindsey Graham does best. Kissing the ass of people in power. It doesn't matter whose ass it is. Today it's Donald Trump's, but tomorrow it might be somebody else. As long as something's popular within the conservative movement that allows Lindsey Graham to kind of glom onto it, he's going to do so in order to stay into power. That's who he is. That's who he is. In fact, back in May, Graham told Sean Hannity, quote, the most popular Republican in America is not Lindsey Graham. Well, certainly. It's not Liz Cheney. It's Donald Trump. People on our side of the aisle believe that Trump policies worked. They're disappointed that he lost. To try to erase Donald Trump from the Republican Party is insane, and the people who try to erase him are going to wind up getting erased. It's impossible for this party to move forward without President Trump being its leader, because the people who are conservatives have chosen him as their leader. And you know why they chose him? Because he delivered. And again, this was just right after he said that he was done with Trump. Just a couple of months. So Lindsey Graham has no principles. Lindsey Graham is in it for Lindsey Graham. The only time he's ever going to go against Trump or somebody in power is when they lose the base. Or, in this case, of January 6th, when his own life is in danger. And look, after this expose, it might be in danger. Yikes. But all right. Anyway. go to men. What everybody wants to talk about. Men. Okay. Republican Senator Josh Hawley spent the weekend complaining about men. How men are no longer men. And that for America to be great, men need to do man things, be men. I'm going to show you here a quick clip from the National Conservatism Conference in Orlando, which is a gathering of right-wing activists and so-called intellectuals who promote a nationalist brand of conservatism. So, you know, nationalism, like white nationalism. So now, other speakers at the conference included Senator Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, as well as J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel. And the Missouri senator, during his speech, highlighted a particularly heartbreaking report in the Wall Street Journal about men not going to college and, well, enjoying porn and video games. Watch.
Can we be surprised that after years of being told that they are the problem, that their manhood is the problem, more and more men are withdrawing into the enclave of idleness and pornography and video games? I found the comment by one young man to a Wall Street Journal reporter particularly evocative and particularly heartbreaking. He said, "I'm sort of waiting for a light to come on so I can figure out what to do next."
Porn and video games. Wait, what are you talking about? That sounds kind of awesome. I mean, in moderation, of course. Everything in moderation. But, so, now here's the thing. There is an actual real issue, okay? So, now, there's an issue with men choosing not to go to college. And that's essentially what that article is referring to. Now, he takes it, of course, into men falling into idleness and blah, blah, blah. And it goes just back to the whole culture war stuff. But let me give you some information, right, about how there is an actual issue. So apparently in the fall, women outnumbered men on 2- to 4-year college campuses by millions. Nearly 60% of students are now women, while only 40% are men, an education gap that has been widening for decades. Total enrollment in colleges have fallen by more than 1 million students over the past 5 years. The Wall Street Journal reports that men accounted for 71% of the decline. That's pretty big. That's a big drop. Now, of course, there are reasons here. Before I get into that, for Hawley, this is kind of ironic because he's saying, I can't believe men aren't going to college. I can't believe they're falling into quote-unquote idleness and porn. Now, here's the thing. If you're worried about that, why are you then part of the party that literally spent the last decade saying that higher education, college bad? Like literally demonizing college education and essentially calling it like a Marxist, you know, sort of re-education camp or something like that, and saying that it's bad. Well, okay, well, hold on here. They also say things like, oh, you know, men need to be manly and need to do manly jobs like construction and being welders and bricklayers. And yeah, oh, you know what? Here's the thing. Skilled trades are very important. If you like skilled trades and if that's what you're good at, God bless, do that. By the way, you should join a union and organize your workplace and fight for higher wages. That would be a wonderful thing, right? And by the way, not only men, you know, do those jobs, women can do those jobs as well. And again, some of those jobs are very high paying, and that actually don't come with the cost of student loan debt. So now on that front, I actually wouldn't be surprised to see guys look at that situation, look at how much college costs and student loans and think, fuck it, I'll go and do those other things that don't cost. God bless. God bless. But again, here's the thing, right? Men are falling behind on higher education. And that is an issue. Now, there are theories. Okay, so one theory that's being floated is that boys are more likely to be held back in school, drop out, or even having trouble learning to read in K through 12 education. I don't know how true that is. Again, this is some of the theories that are being floated around. Another theory is that since women have to work harder than men to get opportunity that men already have, that, you know, that's why they're going to school more than men, because men already have that opportunity. I don't know. But for me personally, I actually do think one of the bigger drivers here is student loan debt. And think about it this way. Student loan debt is about $1.7 trillion. That's a lot of money that's being held in student loan debt. The cost of college is astronomical, absolutely astronomical. So people, again, will look at that and think, I don't want to take on that much debt, especially when you look at an economy that, you know, will, for example, pay people only $15, even if they have like a 4-year college degree. Well, you're going to need to make a lot more than that. $15 an hour is $30,000 a year. That ain't much at all. Especially, again, when you have the cost of college that is somewhere, you know, in the tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars range. So, if that's why you want to stay out of college, that's perfectly fine. And by the way, there was a plan, it was stripped out, there was a plan to make 2-year community colleges tuition free. That would have been amazing. That actually would have helped this problem somewhat. But of course, the real solution here is not only to erase student loan debt by canceling it, but also to make 4-year colleges and universities, that's public colleges and universities, tuition free. That, I think, would solve a lot of the problems in this. But no, Josh Hawley thinks it's the porn. It's the SJWs. They're playing video games because someone has criticized, or society has criticized, their masculinity. Wait, what? For one, again, porn and video games are kind of awesome. Again, if you do it in moderation, nothing is wrong with either of those things. Okay? But understand, this is culture war stuff. It's culture war stuff. Because apparently women, to the conservative, have taken over. Since when, right? And since they did, men can no longer be manly, whatever that means. And now they just have given up and decided to play video games and watch porn. And by the way, they also want to be
beta male, beta.
So that's it. That's it. No, that's ridiculous. That's really dumb. No, here's the thing. This is my opinion, but I think something that's manly is being yourself, enjoying who you are. If you're a burly bricklayer who loves to drink beer, hunt and fish, that's fine. It works for you. Do you, dude? If that's what makes you happy, if that's what makes you feel good, fucking do it. Do it. Now, if you're a guy who cries during Titanic, paints their nails, watches Sailor Moon, and has a man bun, do you. I don't care either. You know what? Good for you. Do you. Be honest with yourself. Be who you are. Love who you are. There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. All right? Just to be yourself. So, again, one of the biggest, and this is just what I've heard, turn-ons about a man is confidence. Just be confident. Not like fake cockiness, because people can sense that a mile away, but like actual confidence. Liking who you are, loving who you are, but not in like a super weird, self-obsessed, narcissistic kind of way. All right? That's it. I think that's what being a man is. Okay? You care about and treat people who, do the same to you, and you fight for those and you protect those who you care about. And of course, I think more importantly as well, you stand up for others against injustice. And you fight for people who don't, you might not even know them, but you still fight for them. I think that's a man. And I think that's not only just a man, but I think women who have the same traits are also good women. Because guess what? That makes you a good person, just overall. That's it. These traits are universal. And by the way, getting in the subject of masculinity and femininity, understand that both are just perfectly fine. That's it. And by the way, members of any gender should be able to do what feels right for them. Putting all men and women into specific little boxes deprives them of freedom, deprives them of choice, and creates things like depression, which is a serious issue among certain men. And by the way, some of this depression and frustration leads younger men to act out, to be more violent. Non-binary too are, yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like gender, non-binary, all of that. Just be yourself. Just be happy and love who you are. That's it. That's it. Now again, so look, if you force rigid gender stereotypes and not allow people to be who they are, right? People like Holly and social conservatives are actually doing a huge disservice to men, women, and everything in between. And look, as far as we're having a conversation on men, right? Men get depressed, and there is an issue with depression. Because look at the messaging coming out from them. Okay? They hear SJWs, they're ruining men. They hate men. They hate you. Women hate you. Society hates you. There's a war on men being feminine at all. In any capacity makes you weak and bad. You're beta male, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why Western society is crumbling. Imagine all the pressure that puts on you, right? They heap all that pressure onto young, impressionable men, right, and boys, and say that you must either be super masculine or you're terrible and you're destroying the civilization. What do you think that does to somebody's psyche? What do you think that does to somebody's mind? Insane. We're human, guys. We're human. We are who we are. And stop trying to make all of us fit into an ideal that honestly very few people fit into. Okay? And that's it. That's it. Like, just be you, okay? If you want to be traditionally masculine or traditionally feminine or anything in between, totally fine. The only thing that I ask of anyone else is to not force anyone else to be the same way as you. Don't do that to other people. What you're being told is happening to you, okay? The same people who claim that society is attacking men and destroying men are actually the real ones that are attacking and destroying men. And once people figure that out and understand that only, that one man being more effeminate than another is perfectly fine. It doesn't harm you, it doesn't do anything bad to you, it doesn't destroy society, it doesn't do any of that, okay? The sooner you learn that, the less the divisive social conservative culture war issues can distract us from real economic issues that harm all of us. Okay. If you're overly concerned about being an alpha male, you ain't one. Yes. Yes, exactly. That again, that's being super unconfident about yourself. People who are confident about themselves don't worry about these ridiculous little hang-ups. People who love who they are, yeah, a real man doesn't have to try to be one. Again, there's like these tryhards. 100%, y'all. 100%. All right. Anyway, I think that I'm fairly clear on that. Oof. Okay. Oh, hey, I'm Christina. Thank you for resubbing for a month at Tier 1. Appreciate that. 5 months. 5 months. Yes, just live your life like you want to and can afford to. Thank you. That's freedom. Other Republicans are supposed to believe in freedom. No, they don't. No, they believe in rigid social hierarchies. You don't. We actually are more freedom loving than anyone else. All right. I know I had a couple of super chats, so let's just go in here and take a look real quick. Shout out here. They're insecure with themselves because their dads didn't hug them enough. Well, because real men don't believe in physical contact with other men. Such ridiculous stuff, Like the whole social conservative like, alpha male, beta male, blah, sigma male, whatever mindset. Ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. Nonsense. Okay. Real men acknowledge their mistakes and grow from them. Real everybody in reality. But yes, real men and women acknowledge their mistakes and grow from them. A lot of these things just apply to both, to both the biological sexes and all the different genders. And so it just makes you good people overall. And then separating people, into binaries and stuff is just, again, ridiculous. So, let's see. Dango Bango with a bunch of super chats, so thank you for those. Let's see. Breaking news, Manchin is taking the $1.7 trillion bill. Of course he is. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I read something about that earlier, about how he wants the bipartisan infrastructure bill to go first, the one with all the corporate goodies. And then, of course, if that goes first, then he's not going to approve of anything in the $1.75 trillion bill. So that's always been the point, is to prevent passage of that, even super, super watered down, stripped down, anything that hurts his donors or could possibly hurt his donors, he's not interested in it at all. Let him tank it, take the heat off progressives. Yeah, no, like I hope he tanks it, because it's unrecognizable garbage. Totally agree. It's not even a good bill anymore, fortunately. Bastion Gorka clean, the alpha males are back. Yeah, of course they are. Because of how we have school set up too. Yeah, no, it's kind of ingrained in our culture at this point, and it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort to kind of undo all that ridiculous. All right, let's raid somebody and wrap the show up here. By the way, if you're interested in more gender talk, Lumi Roo is on right now, but this time I'm going to raid into left flank vets today. Do that. Everybody join them. Thank you all for watching today. Please like and share this already. Very important that you do so. And thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and sharing. See you all on the show tomorrow. Dragon Slayer, thank you very much for the $5. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Amazing.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Mike Pence.
I have not brought this conversation. Oh, I'm sorry. Tighten up my knee. Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.